If you're looking for a good Xbox scare, you're in luck. The platforms have a wide variety of horror games, from psychological thrillers to nightmares full of scares. Whether you want to fight ghosts, monsters, or your own fears, there's something here for everyone. Let's take a look at the best Xbox horror games that will make you leave the lights on at night. Diving back into the Resident Evil franchise with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard feels like stepping into a nightmare you can't wake up from. The game masterfully returns to the series' survival horror roots, throwing you into the terrifying Baker family's deranged world. As you navigate the creaky, decaying halls of their mansion, the first-person perspective ramps up the intensity, making every corner a potential death trap. The atmosphere is thick with tension, and the sound design keeps you on edge with every click and distant whisper. It's a horrifying experience that lingers with you long after you've put down the controller. The Evil Within 2 takes you on a twisted journey through a world where reality and nightmares blend seamlessly. You step into the shoes of Sebastian Castellanos, a detective searching for his missing daughter, only to find himself trapped in a mind-bending alternate reality. The game mixes psychological horror with gruesome survival elements, forcing you to carefully manage your resources while navigating a world filled with grotesque enemies and disturbing imagery. It's a relentless experience that challenges your nerves and keeps you questioning what's real and what's not, all while telling a deeply personal story of loss and redemption. Outlast 2 is one of those games that really gets under your skin, making you feel like you're constantly being watched. Set in a remote village inhabited by a fanatical cult, the game throws you into a relentless chase where hiding is your only defense. The first-person perspective combined with the eerie night vision camera mechanic puts you right in the middle of the terror as you document the horrifying events unfolding around you. It's an intense, heart-pounding experience where every shadow seems to hide a threat, and the story's dark themes only add to the sense of dread. Alien Isolation captures the essence of survival horror by placing you in a cat-and-mouse game with one of cinema's most terrifying creatures. As Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley, you're stranded on a space station with a relentless xenomorph that hunts you down at every turn. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with every footstep echoing through the station's deserted halls, and every shadow potentially hiding your worst nightmare. Silent Hill 2 is often hailed as a masterpiece of psychological horror, and for good reason. The game delves deep into the human psyche, exploring themes of guilt, grief, and redemption through its protagonist, James Sunderland. As you wander through the fog-shrouded town of Silent Hill, you're confronted not just with grotesque monsters, but with the manifestations of James' inner demons. Stepping back into the world of Alan Wake 2 feels like returning to a chilling, beautifully twisted nightmare. The game blends psychological horror with action, creating a narrative-driven experience where light becomes your most crucial weapon. As Alan, a writer trapped in a nightmarish version of his own fiction, you must uncover the mysteries that blur the lines between reality and imagination. The Dead Space remake is a masterclass in horror, remaining the terrifying journey of Isaac Clarke aboard the USG Ishimura. The game enhances everything that made the original a classic, from its chilling atmosphere to its gruesome necromorph enemies. The claustrophobic corridors, filled with flickering lights and distant noises, keep your nerves frayed, while the new graphical fidelity brings the horror to life like never before. The Medium stands out for its dual reality gameplay, where you navigate both the real world and the spirit world simultaneously. Playing as Marianne, a medium who can interact with the dead, You're drawn to a mystery that unravels through both dimensions. The game's atmosphere is dripping with tension, enhanced by a haunting score from Akira Yamaoka, the composer of Silent Hill fame. When it comes to mind-bending horror, The Evil Within delivers a twisted experience that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Directed by Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, this game throws you into a nightmarish world where reality shifts constantly. You play as Detective Sebastian Castellanos, fighting grotesque monsters and unraveling a dark conspiracy. Blair Witch taps into the eerie legend of the Blair Witch, creating a first-person horror experience that's as much about psychological terror as it is about survival. As Alice, a former police officer searching for a missing boy in the Black Hills Forest, you're equipped with only a flashlight, a camera, and your loyal dog, Bullet. The game plays with your mind, distorting reality and time as you delve deeper into the woods. Layers of Fear 2 invites you to step into the shoes of an actor on a ship filled with surreal, nightmarish environments. The game builds on the psychological horror of the first installment, offering a story that explores themes of identity, memory, and madness. The shifting environments and mind-bending visual effects create a sense of unease that keeps you constantly on edge. Little Nightmares 2 takes you on a dark and twisted journey through a world that feels like a child's nightmare come to life. You play as Mono, a young boy trapped in a dystopian world filled with grotesque creatures and eerie environments. The game's art style is both beautiful and disturbing, with each location telling its own unsettling story. Until Dawn is like playing through a classic slasher film where every decision you make determines who lives and who dies. Set on a remote mountain, the game follows a group of friends who find themselves haunted by an unseen menace. The game's branching narrative and quick-time event keep you on edge, knowing that one wrong move could spell doom for your character. When it comes to pure, unrelenting horror, Outlast sets the bar high. You play as investigative journalist Miles Upshur, who enters the ominous Mount Massive Asylum, only to discover horrors beyond imagination. Armed with just a camcorder, you must navigate the asylum's blood-soaked corridors, hiding from the terrifying inhabitants who want nothing more than to kill you. Resident Evil Village delivers a perfect blend of survival horror and action, immersing you in a world filled with gothic horror and terrifying creatures. Playing as Ethan Winters, you find yourself trapped in a mysterious village teeming with danger around every corner. The game's atmosphere is thick and dread, with beautifully detailed environments that range from eerie forests to grand, decaying castles. Friday the 13th, the game, brings the iconic slasher franchise to life, offering a multiplayer experience where you can either play as the legendary Jason Voorhees or one of the camp counselors trying to survive his wrath. The game's tension lies in the cat-and-mouse gameplay, where Jason hunts down the counselors, each with their own unique abilities and escape strategies. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a masterclass in psychological horror, immersing you in a world where fear and sanity are your biggest enemies. You play as Daniel, who wakes up in a desolate castle with no memory of how he got there, but a terrifying presence stalks his every move. The game's atmosphere is suffocating, with its dark corridors and eerie sounds creating a constant sense of dread. The Sinking City is a Lovecraftian horror game that plunges you into a city slowly being consumed by madness and rising floodwaters. As private investigator Charles Reed, you must uncover the truth behind the supernatural events plaguing the city, all while trying to maintain your own sanity. The game's open-world setting is filled with eerie, decaying environments and grotesque creatures that feel ripped straight from the pages of Lovecraft's stories. The Quarry is a cinematic horror game that plays like an interactive movie, with every choice you make shaping the outcome of the story. Set in a summer camp, the game follows a group of counselors who must survive a night of terror after the camp closes. The game's branching narrative and quick-time events create a sense of urgency, knowing that every decision could mean life or death for the characters. The Dark Pictures anthology Little Hope takes you on a chilling journey through a haunted town where dark secrets from the past come back to life. You control a group of characters trapped in the town, each of whom has a unique role to play in the unfolding story. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its eerie environments and unsettling imagery keeping you constantly on edge. Dead Space 2 ramps up the terror of its predecessor, throwing you back into the nightmare as Isaac Clarke, this time on a sprawling space station known as the Sprawl. The game's atmosphere is as suffocating as ever, with its dark, claustrophobic environments filled with necromorphs waiting to tear you apart. The horror is relentless, with the game's sound design and gruesome visuals keeping you on edge from start to finish. F.E.A.R. is a horror game that blends supernatural elements with intense first-person shooter action. You play as a member of an elite military team sent to contain a mysterious paranormal threat. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its eerie environments and disturbing imagery keeping you constantly on edge. The combat is fast-paced and brutal, with slow-motion gunfights that add a cinematic flair to the action. Phasmophobia takes ghost hunting to a whole new level, offering a multiplayer horror experience that's as terrifying as it is fun. You and your friends play as a team of paranormal investigators, exploring haunted locations and gathering evidence of ghostly activity. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with every creak and shadow making your heart race. Call of Cthulhu immerses you in a world of Lovecraftian horror, where sanity is as much a threat as the monsters lurking in the shadows. You play as Edward Pierce, a private investigator delving into the mysterious events of Darkwater Island. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its dark, decaying environments and unsettling imagery creating a sense of unease that never lets up. Deadly Premonition is one of those games that defies easy categorization, blending survival horror with open-world exploration and quickly storytelling. You play as FBI agent Francis York Morgan, investigating a series of murders in the small town of Greenvale. The game's atmosphere is a mix of eerie and bizarre, with its strange characters and surreal environments creating a sense of unease that's hard to shake. Remothered Tormented Fathers is a psychological horror game that's as much about stealth and strategy as it is about scares. You play as Rosemary Reed, a woman investigating the disappearance of a young girl in a creepy mansion filled with dark secrets. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its claustrophobic environments and disturbing imagery keeping you constantly on edge. Slender: The Arrival takes the simple concept of the original Slender game and expands it into a full-fledged horror experience. You play as a character investigating the disappearance of their friend, only to find themselves stalked by the terrifying Slender Man. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with its dark, oppressive environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly takes the terrifying camera mechanic of the first game and cranks up the horror to new levels. You play as Mio, a young woman searching for her missing twin sister in a haunted village filled with vengeful spirits. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its dark, oppressive environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. Visage is a psychological horror game that takes inspiration from the likes of PT and Silent Hill, creating an experience that's as terrifying as it is unnerving. You explore a seemingly ordinary house that quickly reveals itself to be anything but, with supernatural events unfolding around every corner. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with its dark, oppressive environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. Condemned: Criminal Origins is a first-person horror game that blends intense melee combat with a chilling psychological thriller narrative. You play as Ethan Thomas, an FBI agent hunting down a serial killer in a city overrun by violence and madness. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its dark, decaying environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. The combat is brutal and visceral, with every swing of your weapon feeling weighty and impactful. The Thing is a survival horror game that builds on the tension and paranoia of John Carpenter's classic film. You play as a member of a rescue team sent to investigate a remote research station in Antarctica, only to find that the facility has been overrun by a shape-shifting alien threat. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its cold, desolate environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. Fatal Frame 3 The Tormented takes the terrifying camera mechanic of the first two games and cranks up the horror to new levels. You play as Ray, a young woman haunted by visions of her deceased fiancé who must uncover the truth behind the cursed manor that haunts her dreams. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its dark, oppressive environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. Dead Space 3 takes the survival horror gameplay of the first two games and adds a co-op mode, allowing you to team up with a friend to face the terrifying necromorphs together. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with its dark, claustrophobic environments and eerie sound design keeping you constantly on edge. So, did you like the games I recommended? So leave your like, subscribe to the channel to follow me and activate the bell because I post a lot of videos on this channel and you can't miss it. Thank you very much for following me this far, and until next time, bye!